Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Sober Dad Sunday. It's 10 o'clock Eastern Time here on a Sunday night. My name is Matt. I'm a dad of three kids. I'm a sober person. I've been in recovery for 2.5-ish years now. And this is a space where I just kind of pop in weekly, share a couple of thoughts that have come to me from somewhere in the intersection of life as a dad, recovery, um, just a person doing life in the world and putting some stuff out there and asking you guys to respond, to have some things to say. Some really good conversation about making amends we've had in the last few weeks, about meditation and centering ourselves. Today, being Mother's Day in a lot of places in the world, especially here in the United States, um, it got me to thinking about partnership. Some of us choose to spend our lives with a one monogamous partner, whether it be formalized in the covenant of marriage or in some other way. Others, have various partners throughout their lives. But if you, whatever the case may be with you, when you're choosing to be with and share your life with somebody for a very long time, you build up a lot of stuff, a lot of memories, uh, a lot of good things and some baggage. I mean, you can't be together and fully do life together if you happen to cohabitate and share things like finances and, the same bathroom. And to say nothing of, trying to raise children together, you're just going to have a lot of stuff that goes in there. Uh, my wife and I have been together over 20 years now. Uh, we'll celebrate 18 years of being formally married in the fall, and 15 and a half ish years of this, we've been parents to children and trying to navigate all this stuff. And when I was having my kids sign their Mother's Day card and, posting some things on social media about that, I did the usual things saying, hey, you're the best. You are the best mom in the world, which is absolutely true. Believe that with all my heart. But I know there have been other times, it's like, signing a birthday card or posting something else or just whatever the case may be, when it's like, I'm saying that and I mean that. And yet, like an hour before, we might have had some kind of banger of an argument about something. It's like, yeah, you're the best mom in the world, but for God's sake, clean the damn kitchen or whatever the case may be. Rarely do any of us put that in the parentheses of a card we're signing or a social media post we're making or maybe a toast we give at an event to somebody. Uh, Unless we're involved in a roast. I don't know how many of you guys watched that Tom Brady roast last Sunday night. It was hilarious and kind of terrible in a lot of ways. But for the most part, most of us don't really do that in kind of public proclamations or ways that we're affirming our partners. And yet, all of us have that stuff there too. My wife is an excellent mother. She's wonderful with our kids. I can also name some times when I'm just like, gee, you weren't at your best there. Before I go too far down that road, I'm the one in recovery, she's not. So for any one thing I could name as like, yeah, you're an awesome mom, awesome partner, all this stuff, and sort of have some little adjacent butts. She's got like 10 more on me, and she can and can and will say the same things. Matt's a great dad. Matt's a great partner, pastor, chaplain, all these things. And at the same time, there's the asterisk of, but man, this one time I saw him lose his mind about this thing on the kids, and when you're with people for that long, and you share that much of life together, you're gonna have just stuff, just a ton of different things, memories, and things that all come together to construct whatever narrative that we put together about who this person is. And we do the same things for ourselves. When someone says, "Hey, tell me about you," and it's your, I don't know, maybe 90-second introduction, elevator pitch, or you're just chatting with somebody, you don't say every single thing that's ever happened to you, probably because you can't remember it all. But all of us construct and pick and choose certain things that put together a narrative about who we are as people, about what our family life is like, about what type of person our partner is. Maybe it's on the positive side. If we're pissed off at them that day, or describing an ex, well, then we're probably going to pick and choose some of the more negative things to fit into whatever that narrative that we're constructing is. And as we go along in life, those narratives start to change. I would say the same things about Jessica, mostly, that I would have 20 years ago about an amazing person, a very attractive person, all these great qualities. And yet the depth that I would go and the things that I would draw on are very, very different. So I'd say a lot of the same things, and yet the story, all the stuff that comes underneath the surface, and that little bit that rises up that I'll tell you in just a casual conversation, is really different. Those of us who are in recovery, whether it be from a drug and alcohol thing, or you've made a big turn in your life, you're dealing with mental illness, or getting on a healthier pattern of living, whatever the case may be, have not just had to change certain behaviors or habits or things like that. In a lot of ways, we've had to construct entirely new stories about who we are. Sometimes, if you are in a AA or NA type of meeting, people will somehow compete with each other to tell the craziest stories of what they used to be like and the awful stuff that they did, and this one-upsmanship gets kind of weird. But all of us that are doing that are stumbling through and trying to figure out what are the story that we're telling about ourselves, about who we are, about why we're here in the world, what we're doing. Ideally, why does our existence matter? And why is hopefully the world a better place because we were here? And in constructing that narrative, we're going to do some picking, some choosing, and we have some very real decisions to make about the story that we tell ourselves and the story that we tell other people, and ultimately the story we decide to live by. And as we're telling and constructing that story about ourselves, ultimately those people that are closest to us and how we understand them and tell their part in that same story is part and parcel of all of it. And all of it, we have some choices to make. I could sit down and list out a bunch of wonderful things about my wife. I can also sit down and list some lesser things. Both of them are absolutely true. Both of them would paint a radically different picture of her as a human being, and neither of them would be really complete. And so, if we have those lists and we're sitting down and doing that, and again, if you're in recovery, you've spent some time making some lists about yourself, about your character defects, your inventories on things. One of the things that my sponsor likes to kid me about is that I'm much better at taking somebody else's inventory than my own. If I call him and I'm griping about something about my marriage or my kids, like, okay, congratulations, you're excellent at taking their inventory. Where are you? What's your part in this? And so we have to decide what things on those lists we're really going to hold on to closely as the story we continue to live into, and which ones we're going to not set aside, not ignore. We're not going to, only tell ourselves a half story, but to say, I'm just going to hold a lot more loosely to those certain things because while they're there and they're true, if I give those things more space than they really deserve, then I'm never really gonna um, be fully present. I'm never really going to see this person in really the best light if the only thing I do is focus on the negative stuff, true though it is. Same with ourselves. If we only focus on and live in the light of the lesser stuff about us, our lesser moments, our lesser qualities, then we're just going to get stuck there. We don't ignore that they're real, because they are. And the things we have to learn from, things we even have to make friends with at a certain point. But all those lists of things that we can and often do make, we have to decide what to do with them and how much bandwidth to give them. Again, true, though all of them are. What's the story about I'm telling about myself? How does the story about I'm telling you who my partner in life is, how does that weave into that story that I'm telling and that I'm trying to live? Same with my kids or anybody else close to me. As I've gone through this journey the last couple of years of being a sober person and figuring out how to handle stresses in my life differently and how to weight certain things, um, those narratives about how to hold those relationships that are closest to me have necessarily had to change as well. I've not only had to change the ways that I have chosen to deal with the moments that are stressful or the lesser things, I've had to renegotiate the whole thing because my problem with alcohol became so bad, it became so all consuming that I had to, do a hard stop, do a hard reset. And that's a really hard place to be. Even when you know the path you've been going down, it's not a great one. It's at least something that's familiar. So there's a lot of work to do in picking and choosing the pieces that are going to be that story that we're telling about the totality of our life and the people in it. So I'm wondering this week for all of you out there, whether you're watching this live or checking it out later, how do you go about making those decisions? How do you go about picking and choosing the factoids and the stories, little individual episodes that are going to make up that larger narrative about who you are and who the people in your life are? What's the negative stuff you're going to highlight and include because it shows, um, ideally, growth and a more positive trajectory? And how do you decide which stuff to acknowledge as real and yet, for the most part, lay aside because dwelling on it isn't going to get you much of anywhere? How do you make those choices? And how is your journey of making those choices? How has that made the story of who you are better or worse? I'd love to see y'all's thoughts down in the comments, and maybe we can pick that up another time, or even just get some interesting discussion going in the comment section. That's all for this week. Again, happy Mother's Day to all of you out there, anyone who has participated in raising up kids in this world, whether you're a biological mom or some other part. It really does indeed take a whole village. So I offer you my good wishes, my blessings, as you go about your work and you're living in the world this week. I encourage you to give it your best. Put all you can into being the best version of you for the people around you, because they're worth it. And most of all, put everything you can into being the best version of you for you, because you're worth it. Good night.